and welcome to the Oh Dear Podcast. My name is Cristian Duran, Senior Vice President of the Oh Dear Podcast, Oh Dear Nation, Oh Dear Limited, Oh Dear Weekly, Oh Dear Express, all subsidiaries there in Fortu, which with me, as always, on the one podcast where we talk about the things that would make your mother clutch her pearls and say, oh dear, are Bret Raybould and Nick Whitmer.
You got the note. I said, be bigger, Christian. Be bigger.
Well, last week you were like, you don't even care about this anymore.
Yeah, dude. I do want a documentary called Behind the Podcast where we just get into all the interpersonal turmoil and there's a lot of drama behind the scenes.
And then just the on-camera interviews is like, things were going great, but then, once drugs got involved.
And then there's it's like black and white now.
It's a picture of us three, and then the picture's tattered.
And then it tears.
Yeah, with terrible iMac quality effects.
But it tears with me and Whitmer hanging out, and then it tears Christian and Whit. So me and Whit are on the side, but fucking deep.
And then it's like, and then Brett and Chris and Nick started their own podcast.
Called Oh No.
Christian's efforts did not succeed as well. Like he released a self-titled one-man podcast show, and it's like me in a leather jacket with sunglasses. Too much for Oh Dear or something.
Tried to go solo, announcing a
solo
podcast career. No artist has ever had or what are the artists that have had better solo careers than?
There's been a few.
I would say Sting,
Justin Timberlake,
Michael Jackson.
NSYNC was big, but Justin Timberlake I think is bigger with the acting and everything.
Michael Jackson's number one because of Jackson 5 if you count that.
Right. I think
Ringo Starr. Michael Jackson.
Ringo Starr.
Ringo. Yeah,
he's way bigger than the Beatles ever could have been.
He's weirdly like he didn't have to be. Like he was always just gonna be Ringo. Like no matter what they put out, he put out. It didn't have to be great, and nobody cared.
People shit on him like because like he didn't write the music or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, maybe like not having that much of an ego was a gift to that band.
It was
considering who else was in it. Like maybe just being able to be like, you know what, I got the drums. You know what I mean? It's not like he wasn't a good drummer. He
drummed to make the songs amazing. You don't need a lot of shit going on with drums when the songwriting is so good.
Right.
Like this, I've actually seen a video where like someone was like, "This is people say Ringo's a bad drummer. This is what it would look like if they had like a really
Neil Peart."
It was just like when I wanna, and then there's
wipe out.
And you're like, it's garbage.
Yeah, Keith Moon would have ruined the Beatles.
Yeah, you don't need
all live in a yellow submarine. Yellow submarine.
Yeah, it's way too dramatic.
Yeah.
So really just a simple like it's like, oh, it works great. That's all that matters. Clearly he was a good drummer.
Yeah.
They went number one a few times.
I heard a story, I don't know, it was probably from like Paul McCartney or something.
It sounds like Paul McCartney told you this story.
Yeah.
we had dinner.
We had dinner.
I was talking to my friend named Paul.
Lauren.
McCartney.
It was just me, Lauren, Paul Simon, and Paul McCartney. The Pauls. We called them. But he was saying how he was talking to Ringo, and he was like, just, I don't know why, but he was just kind of like, I was like listening to some old songs. He's like, you were fucking like really good. And then Ringo goes like, yeah, I know. Like, I've been fucking telling everybody for 30 years.
Less is more sometimes.
Yeah.
And like you think like the dick measuring contest that McCartney and Lennon got into and like writing the music, like if they had one more ego who was like, guys, I need a song on the album too. It would just been like, they would have broke up 2 years earlier.
Well, was George Harrison had as things went on, he was only allotted, I think, one song per album.
Yeah. Right.
And it was often the best song because he only got one. So it's like,
you choose your best one.
You choose your best one. Right. And,
but towards the end, Paul and John were like, I remember Paul saying something again. I'm sad. Paul was talking to me anyway, but Paul said something in an interview where he was like, at some point, like towards the end, we were like, me and John were looking at each other, going like, he's getting fucking good, dude. We gotta squash this.
The dictatorial. All right, you have no more songs.
Yeah. But I bet if you took, I've always wanted to like make a playlist of all the best post Beatles songs, like just put 10 of them, and that'd be an amazing Beatles album. Like if they just stayed together as the Beatles, but just all wrote separately, and then just release it all as one album. Like all the stuff from.
It'd be great if the album was just Ringo's debut.
Yeah. So. All Things Must Pass, and then like all the John Lennon and Paul McCartney
Wings
stuff.
is great, man. Wings is so good.
Live and Let Die and Imagine on the same album.
And Silly Love
Sweet Lord,
Songs.
yeah.
That's one of the best songs.
It's a great song.
And then you know where that song came from? Silly Love Songs? You know, the lyric is like, I think the world says there's too many silly love songs. Apparently, reviewers reviewed Paul's previous album. They're like, it's just another batch of silly love songs. And then Paul's like, fuck you. And he named a song Silly Love Songs.
Well, I was listening to a podcast talking about McCartney, and apparently like coming out of the Beatles, there was like a race to see who would have the best career between him and Lennon.
Yeah.
And Lennon's like first debut album by himself after the Beatles was like critically acclaimed because he was like the critic darling. And Paul McCartney was more of like the poppy person, and Paul McCartney's first album, McCartney 1, he didn't live up to the expectations apparently. But it took until like, I think the Wings album that came out, the first one came out in like 1974. That was 4 years after the Beatles broke up. So like John Lennon was just owning him for 4 years and like saying all this shit in the press about Paul McCartney.
Really?
And Paul McCartney was like trying to come up with a great album, and he finally did in 1974, and that was when he was like, okay, I'm not a fraud. And I'm like, can you imagine Paul McCartney thinking he's a fraud until he could come up with an album without the Beatles?
Yeah. I mean, being a member of the biggest band of all time at that point and to this day, and still somehow having imposter syndrome,
right?
It's like a crazy level of like, does it ever end for an artist of feeling like, okay, I'm pretty good? Like if Paul McCartney couldn't have had the self-confidence to be like, I am good, Christ, then we're helpless.
Who are we talking about that kind of has that? You were saying, Tarantino. We talked about that on this podcast where you were saying he has like a little bit of humility, but like enough I know. My shit is awesome.
Yeah, he is a weird, like when you listen to him talk, he's so arrogant, but it's also somehow he just straddles the line of arrogant and humble very well because everything he says is super confident, bordering on arrogant, but he never comes across like he's a dick somehow. It's interesting.
Him and Kanye, that story that Aziz Ansari told on his like first album or whatever, where he's like he went to Kanye's house and Kanye was listening to his own album by himself, just vibing, and then Aziz is like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Yo, these are some dope beats." Right. I feel like him and Quentin Tarantino do the same. Like they watch their own movies and are like, I fucking killed this shit. Like,
I gotta be honest, guys. I finished watching my hour special this morning, and it like, holds up.
Fucking nailed it, dude. Shit's so hard.
I record all my set. We all almost every comedian records their set, the audio of their sets, and then go back and listen to take notes. And just that process alone is like,
it's horrifying.
I just procrastinate on it. I'm like, I don't want to listen back to my fucking stupid voice. And then like I hear it, I'm like, ugh. Even when I'm doing well, it's just not fun to.
The best, the funny thing is, I've said this before, but like when you think a show went bad, you listen back to it, it didn't go as bad as you thought. And when you think it went well, it didn't go nearly as well as you thought it did. Yeah. You're like, fuck. But when I was doing my album, like, they were like, oh, we need your notes and get those to us whenever. And I was like, you got to sit with me and listen to this because I can't just sit in a room by myself and listen to this. And like, I remember I was with Aaron who produced the album. I'm sitting in a room with him and I just have my head in my hands the whole time. And he's like, "You don't like it?" I was like, "No, it's good. I just can't. I can't like myself."
It's yeah. It's very hard. When he asked me, "Do you have any notes?" and I was like, "Can you make me funnier? Like, is there a way to like have my jokes be better written?" Mm-hmm.
Can you pump up the audio and all the laughs?
Yeah, crank them so it's frustrating. Where it's like when it's like that loud, like peaking, just like just do that so people are like, "Wow, he's really doing."
And then cut to the audience for one shot, so then I can say, "Guys, you're laughing so loud that you're gonna peak the mics."
Yeah.
And anytime I have a joke about race, make sure you show a black guy laughing at it, or if it's about white woman, you have to show a white woman laughing at it. You need to show the identity to make it cool.
It's such a silly way of. And I know it's a way of cutting, You know, like you need to change the angle to cut to something, and sometimes it's too jarring if you just go from like the wide angle to the side angle if, you know, the material doesn't match up or whatever. So sometimes you have to cut to the audience just so you can make a cut. But like they do it so purposefully, like just like you said on some of those older Comedy Central specials where they like cut to the person that they're talking about laughing and they're like, all right. And I'm like, dude, you realize that they filmed the entire audience. That could have been another joke that guy was laughing at. Right. And they just cut in that one because he was sitting there mean mugging on the one about him, you know, like.
As if somebody's at home going like, oh, okay.
Oh, good. Thank God. Thank God. I felt guilty laughing about that.
Although it's funny when you can tell it's like an audience shot from another time period. It's
like
2020 special film of 2018, and they're like, that guy's wearing a 90s polo. He's got the eraser hair, the like Will Smith eraser hair look.
It's from Def Comedy Jam. And the dude's running up the aisles because he's laughing so hard. You're like, oh, really? That bit about toast made the dude run out.
That was like when they cut in a net with the Apollo crowd. Like every time they literally cut in a net as a special, but they did reaction shots from like a black Apollo crowd when there's a bad comedian on, and they're all just like, she just says a joke and then it cuts to all these black people going like, what the fuck? It's like the perfect special to do that.
Blue's a flame or whatever jokes were.
I listened to this one interview one time. I think it was like Louis C.K. and Jim Norton were talking about just old comedians they came up with and like weird comedians. And he was talking about one guy who was just like the vampire of comedy. He did like the same material for like 20 years or something like that. And Louis was like, you know, I just want to get that guy and just like give him an hour special. And just like, he's like, and like turn the AC down, like make it hot. And just fill the audience like Crips and Bloods.
Yeah.
And then they're like, if you don't want to do that, then you got to quit comedy.
Right.
Otherwise.
Just sabotaging. That's fucking funny.
Yeah. But you wanted to talk about something today.
We got to get into the bulletins, man. We got to get into the news bulletins.
I wanted to bring on and talk about wrestling.
I know.
It was me who, because it's not per se wrestling.
Yeah.
I saw a news story yesterday that WWE and Blumhouse are making a TV show, a scripted TV show. And it's called, it's about, apparently Vince McMahon got in trouble with steroids or something in the 90s, and there was a trial or something. So the show is literally called The United States of America versus Vince McMahon.
You know he signed off on that title.
Like, it's just like the fucking most Vince McMahon.
I know.
He's like, I took on the whole country.
Can we do the world? Can we do the world? Planet Earth versus Vince McMahon.
A perennial billionaire victim.
So what happened?
That's my favorite.
Christian definitely knows the backstory, but apparently this is 1994. This happened.
Yeah.
I was not aware that he got in any type of trouble. Was it him personally, or was it steroids and wrestling, or was it?
It was weird. Like he got investigated by the government.
What?
He got investigated by the government because there were allegations that he was giving steroids to his wrestlers.
Which is weird because it's like, guys, it's fake fighting.
Right, yeah.
We had the wrong, we had such a backwards look on.
No. I don't think it's because the wrestling was too good and they were breaking records. Like, this is bullshit, dude.
No, dude.
This is bullshit.
There needs to be an asterisk on everything Roddy Rod Piper ever did.
It's because steroids are illegal. That's why.
Why are they illegal? They were illegal at the time?
Yeah, of course.
Why? It's a fucking... It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's terrible for you, but so is, Oreos and sugar and
heroin.
Yeah, if steroids aren't illegal in Hollywood for action movies, then they shouldn't be illegal in wrestling. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I agree, man.
But
fucking wrestling truther, man.
But so he got investigated, and it's funny because you can see when it happens because his top guys are Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, who's the most juiced up freak ever.
Yeah.
All these big guys. It's all big guys. And then all of a sudden in 92, WWF champion is Bret Hart, the most normal looking man ever. And Shawn Michaels, who's really small, right? So, but he got investigated and it's so weird because he has this weird love-hate relationship with Hulk Hogan. to the point where like Hulk Hogan is his number one star in the 80s and all this stuff. And then in the 90s, Hulk Hogan testified against him in the steroid trial, saying that Vince, he lied. He's a fucking liar.
Hulk Hogan lied?
Hulk Hogan, yes. He lies about everything. He said that he body slammed Andre the Giant, and then Andre the Giant died like 3 days later. It was like, that's factually, like I can look that up.
Wait. Hulk Hogan is saying, I body slammed Andre.
Yeah.
Why? Well, who cares?
But
Are we really doing a braggadocio brag about how you killed your coworker? Like, I don't, I'm not.
Are you like, dude, involuntary manslaughter over
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, even if you did do that, I'm like, that's not good. We don't want people to die and stuff, especially entertainment. Really,
it's so funny because he lied about that. He said that he was offered to be the bassist of Metallica in the early days. And then Metallica's like, no, we never even heard of that guy.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said that he was offered the George Foreman grill, but that he missed the call. So they just like went with George Foreman.
Dude, they're going to have the Hulk Hogan grill.
Yeah.
That was what they're going to call it?
Yeah.
The Hulk Hogan
No,
grill.
they were going to call it the brother.
The brother grill.
Everyone needs a brother
Look at
grill.
the lines, brother.
Of them coming up with like the what do they call them, the prop or whatever, like the very first one.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the prototype.
Thank you.
Yeah, the prototype, and it says the Hulk Hogan grill on it. And then all of a sudden he misses the call, and then they call George Foreman. They're like, "All right, we can erase this.
Sharp it out.
Just cross it out." George Foreman grill has a better sound to it anyway.
There's such different. We know that can't be true because there's such different personas in people.
Yeah.
Like George Foreman, it's interesting because George Foreman is undeniably he was a real boxer, like heavyweight champ.
He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and
One
Hulk
of the
Hogan
best
was the
boxers
fake
ever.
heavyweight champion of the world.
So it's like they're not like, and they're also very different. Like, George Foreman, at least my perception of him, he's like a very clean, like very family friendly guy who's like got a nice smile. Maybe that's just because I never watched his fights. I just watched his commercials. And Hulk Hogan is like, I don't know. He's like just like kind of just Florida personified and juiced up a little.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan spray tan Florida man. That's why when he said his N-word thing, I was like, that's not a racist. That's just a dude from Tampa. Like, I'm from Florida. So to me, that was like, that's how dudes from Tampa are. They're too dumb to understand. They think they're not racist when they say the N-word. Like, they're like, because even like the Dog the Bounty Hunter video that I played for you guys, he's like, listen, we use the N-word, but we don't mean the N-word.
It's
like they're so dumb, they don't really get it. But one last funny thing about Hulk Hogan is he was on this was when he was going through his divorce. He's being interviewed on like 60 Minutes or something, and then some guys
Hulk Hogan went through a divorce.
Can you imagine?
Really? I thought he had the same wife for 60 years.
Yeah.
So he was going through a divorce, and his wife took everything, and then dated her daughter's like classmate from high school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa. Exactly. That's so Clearwater.
The Tampa circle of life.
Yeah.
That's where, that's the nature's running its course. You flush out a washed up former WWE star to date your daughter's classmate from high school.
Yeah.
So now he was like 21 or something.
Yeah. So so Hogan's so dumb that he doesn't he knows the phrases, but he doesn't know how to use them correctly. So he's talking to the guy, this interviewer, on like 60 Minutes, and the guy's like, "So how did it make you feel when your wife left and took your house and all this stuff?" And Hogan's like, "We're on the record, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I mean, I understood OJ." He goes, "This is on the record, right?" I'm like, "That's the opposite of what you want to say, buddy."
This shit needs to be printed.
Yeah.
I want her to know.
He's like, he's too stupid to know. It's off the record.
That's fucking hilarious.
What a
this
guy.
is on the record. All right, let me say the most offensive thing, just so we can have. You have a stenographer, right? Is there? Point her out. There she is. All right.
Well, we're on the record. Let me just say the N-word one more time, and then we'll start the interview again.
God damn, man.
Yeah, but the show, I'm interested in who plays Vince McMahon.
I was thinking about that too, but I was thinking they should just get him to
Yeah, I
play
know,
him.
really.
You have to. You
20
can't.
years younger.
The only other person I can see doing Vince McMahon justice is like Kate McKinnon.
That'd be so
You know what I mean?
inspiring.
It's gotta be. It's like Kate McKinnon. Put her in a. Maybe don't even put her in a buff suit. Maybe just have her be like her normal
Just
body.
give her the
But
boxy suit.
yeah.
Like,
Just
you can see the air.
It has to be her. Like,
Yeah.
who else could do it? Because if you go for someone that because if you do Kate McKinnon, you're going for like pure comedy. We're gonna have fun with it. But if you do someone else, it's like you're missing the point of it. You're trying to go for some reality. Like, we don't want Christian Bale to beef up and like, do the character thing. We just want it to be hilarious.
Right. And you don't want, like, I don't want this scene, which I'm sure will be in the show, of like guys at the FBI smoking cigars going, this Vince McMahon's making a lot of headway. We got to bring him down. Like that scene.
That's going to be the show, though.
It's going to be the whole show.
He's writing it.
Yeah.
It's like
Is he writing it?
Yeah, WWE is writing it.
Okay,
It's
well,
a
it's over.
scripted
It's over
TV
then.
show that's coming out from WWE and Blumhouse or
Blumhouse.
Blumhouse.
Yeah. Well, one of the funny things is like what I was talking about, perennial billionaire victim, is like his. They always look at themselves as like the good guys.
Yes.
So after 9/11.
I can't wait to hear it.
Here we go. That's how you always know the story's going to be good when it starts with 9/11. Like,
But it's especially when it's about someone like Vince McMahon, you're like, I can't wait to hear what he said.
So after 9/11, it was the first show back from. This is like September
12. They already had they were fighting the Taliban.
he wrote the email. Heard about the tragedy. Work is still on tomorrow.
We gotta get back to work.
It's a whole operation. We need things to go well.
So after 9/11, the first SmackDown back, Stephanie McMahon goes on in the middle of the ring in front of a live audience. In mic goes, I understand what it's like to be attacked. When my father was attacked by the U.S. government during the steroid trial, and you just feel everybody in the back go, no.
I can relate to all those people who lost family members.
Vince McMahon off camera.
This is going great.
This is true. Speak the truth, Stephanie.
Oh my god, dude.
What's up with who is she dating anyone, or is she single?
No, she's been married to Triple H for some time.
Oh,
in real life.
Wrestling royalty.
Yeah, wrestling royalty.
Damn. That's kind of how you hold on to Triple H. Like, that's kind of how you hold on to being in the.
Yeah.
You can never not be out of the family. It's like. It's like when, I forget his name, Trump appointed the son-in-law.
Yeah.
It's like that version of that.
Yeah.
Which I'm not a person who's like, there's too much nepotism. I don't know why I'm doing McMahon voice, but there's too much nepotism in WWE.
Yeah. It's like when a comedian starts dating a booker and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. What is this about, really?
No, it's about love.
The thing is, so when I first saw the headline about there's a show coming about Vince McMahon and the steroids allegation and stuff, and I didn't know anything about the steroid allegation, but I was literally thinking like a People versus O.J. Simpson type, like dramatized version of the trial and what happened. And then I click on the link and then it says produced by WWE. And then it says it's going to be called The United States of America versus Vince McMahon. I go, oh, it's like he's literally just going to write about the time he owned the country. Like there's no other way. It's not him taking a victory lap 20 some years later.
You read the synopsis and it's like an innocent family man. Strung out and railroaded by a corrupt government.
So what ended up happening with the trial? I mean, obviously he didn't go to jail or anything. So
he didn't go to jail. I mean, I don't know the specifics, but it was just found out. The thing, it's not that people weren't taking steroids. It's just that it was found legally he was not supplying people with steroids. That's all. He just created an environment where people felt like they needed to do steroids.
And was this like a Congress?
I don't know. I guess.
What were we doing?
Hearings, wasting time and taxpayer dollars
to listen. Even when you think about the baseball era of steroids, you just kind of like think about modern problems. I would be fucking furious if Congress was like, hearing in Senate like, all right, Deflategate, we have Tom Brady on the stand to talk about the balls. I would be so mad.
Yeah.
Like, this is entertainment. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a congressional hearing on Deflategate? No.
I hope
If
not.
there was, that's 100% them just being like, who wants to meet Tom Brady?
They did it on steroids in baseball, though. They did it on steroids.
They definitely did on baseball, yeah.
And all those guys were like, I would never. And then every one of them was on steroids.
Dude, they're holding their glass. I would never. Clink, clink. Like it smashes in their hand.
Rafael Palmeira was literally like pointing to them like, I'm a man of integrity.
Yeah.
To even suggest I would do something like this is an insult to me and my family. I worked hard. And then like 3 weeks later, it's like, yeah, he did steroids. Yeah. I'm like, how do you even do that, dude?
It's so funny.
Sociopath shit.
Yeah, it's like the congressional hearing from the fucking Godfather 2, where they have his like cousin. I did not do that. Who's that man over there? I don't know. He's here on his own. But yeah, well, what I'm really interested in is The Ringer's doing a documentary on Vince McMahon. So that's like that's interesting. And The Ringer just did a documentary which we talked about last week, which I finally saw, Woodstock '99.
How was it?
I thought it was pretty good, but there was some stuff that was annoying.
Yeah.
So give us context. Woodstock 99 was about, they redid Woodstock in 1999.
In 1999.
And unlike the one in the 60s, this one has a lot of like, kind of cultural cachet, a lot of cultural clout.
A lot of class.
A lot of class. Some of the most beloved artists of our time, Limp Bizkit, Lincoln. I don't know if Linkin Park did it, but
The Offspring was there. I didn't even know that. Like,
Yes,
I had to watch the documentary.
The Offspring.
I had to watch the documentary.
Christian sent us a clip, and it was just Kid Rock coming on stage. He's like, I don't want to get political, but Monica Lewinsky's a slut, and Bill Clinton is a pimp.
He goes, this is as political as I get, but Monica Lewinsky's a fucking hoe, and Bill Clinton's a fucking pimp. My name is Kid.
It's like, who has ever been like, I'm dying to know what Kid Rock has to say about this.
And it wasn't like the crowd was like, the crowd was like, fuck yeah. But the documentary was good. It was well made. The only thing was like, I was texting you guys. I was like, the only thing they missed was that it's like too somber of a documentary. Like they're like, oh, this was the worst thing that ever happened. But really, you're supposed to be like, this was so stupid.
Yeah,
like everyone was dumb back then.
You gotta be hilarious how stupid it was.
Play it for comedy, dude.
Yeah,
Do not. You told us that they played it for doing this like loose. Any documentary that doesn't really have anything and like men are in it, they're like, how can we relate this to the rise of the alt-right? You're like, shut the fuck up. That in 1999. Somehow there probably is some overlap between people who do like shitty music and like, but it's just annoying.
Disenfranchised white guys, with a bunch of anger,
who are 20 years old.
Who are 20 years old. I mean, there is a loose connection to disenfranchised white people who go, you know what, I'm voting for Trump. But it's not like you can be like, I found the origin of Trump, guys. Yeah. It happened in a field in Wall Street, New York. Or Wall Street, Woodstock, New York.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing, I'd forgotten about this because I thought like there was 3 Woodstocks, like one in the 70s, but it was 69, 94, and then 99.
During the Vince McMahon trial.
Yeah, exactly. So the one in 94 was like pretty like peaceful. That's what they got into and stuff. And then they have like this weird narrative that like as soon as like Kurt Cobain was moving the culture forward in terms of like gender, but like he dressed in a dress, right? He was in a dress and like,
he loved RuPaul.
Yeah.
That's
all these, they were saying like all the bands from 94 were like grunge and like, promoting LGBTQ rights and like anti-racism and all this stuff. And then as soon as he died, fucking that was out the window, bro. Like that's the documentary's premise.
Well, then you're a bunch of pussies who need one guy in order for you to have a vision. Like fuck you and your shitty movement. Then, like if you're just as good as one dude who could just kill himself, then what good are any of you? You all suck.
I'm only in favor of LGBTQ as far as some really good songwriter is for it. But if he's dead, then why give a shit? God, I love it.
But it was, I mean, there's certain things you couldn't be funny about because there was like definitely some sexual assaults happening. There was like women saying they're not saying, but like I mean, literally saying, but when I say saying, it sounds like I don't believe them.
Women are just, I don't know.
You know what they were saying? There was.
That's what it sounds like. No, but women reporting rapes that happen to them. So it's like, you can't be funny about that. But like, you can be funny about Limp Bizkit and these idiots breaking shit because you gave them all candles. They were like, there's a point in the documentary where they just show a kid early on. He's like, we're having a candlelight vigil tomorrow night, so we're just passing out candles and it should be good. So like, take a candle, take as many as you want. And then by the end, they have all these candles, and then Red Hot Chili Peppers go on stage. And they start playing that Jimi Hendrix song like, step on to the fire. And then, of course, everybody just lights everything on fire.
That's such a bad... Okay, everyone, take your complimentary flamethrower and just be peaceful with it. Be chill.
But the biggest, like, heels in that fucking thing, the biggest, like, douchebags are the promoters. Mm-hmm. The promoters of the concert back then, because they're still, like, doubling down now and being like... I don't know, man. I thought it went pretty well.
There was 25,000 sexual assaults reported. Well, you know.
Well, come on.
Yeah, but we sold $100,000 in bottled water.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things. He goes, they go like, how do you respond to the thing? Because water was $4. Right. In 1999 money. Yeah. So water was $4. And he goes, how do you respond to water? He's like, yeah, I guess it's a little expensive. But if you go to a concert, if you go to a festival, bring money.
Yeah,
like you fucking douchebag.
But I mean, how is that different from every other concert? Have you ever gone to a concert? You're like, the water bottles are very reasonably priced at this concert. No, that's the whole venue can't be open unless there's a show. So they upcharge the shit out of you because you can't go anywhere else. That's why when you go to a baseball game, a beer costs $11. That's why when you go to a concert, drinks cost so much money. I don't know. The thing
was, it's like it's 100 degrees outside, and they had like water set up, but these kids are so stupid that they start showering in the water supply.
Oh my god!
So nobody starts drinking and then at some point people start
because hippies are bathing in it.
Exactly, and then people started getting frustrated that the lines were taking so long. People were being obnoxious with the water that they burst a pipe. So, and then they start drinking water up from there. But the problem with that is you burst a pipe and it gets all over the place. What are you surrounded by? Just dirt. So everything becomes mud.
Right.
And then the porta potties got backed up. So there's like overflowing. So now people are just rooting around in mud and shit. So they can't even tell the difference anymore.
Right. It's almost like a metaphor for the people.
But yeah, it's weird when you see who was on that show too. Cause like Alanis Morissette is on it. And it was like, Limp Bizkit and Alanis Morissette.
How did they get? Yeah, it's like how did they get? What's that bald singer from SNL who did the Pope?
Sinead O'Connor.
I think it's Sinead O'Connor to do Woodstock '99.
Price is right.
It'd be great if we put on like a Woodstock 2022, but still booked Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock.
I kind of like the idea of no, but I kind of like the idea of all of the mid acts that are the smaller font, but are like. Great bands, great artists, and then the headliners are just dog shit. So you're like, wait a minute, there's like a lot of good acts, and then the headliners are just dog shit. Just the clone, just Dog the Bounty Hunter, Kid Rock, Bret Michaels.
You should do Woodstock 99 2020,
right?
Like that version.
But to think they got the biggest bands of the time to be there, right?
Yeah.
And how were they the biggest bands at the time? It's because the people like that were buying their shit. And what were those? It's not like Woodstock 99 happened with all these undiscovered bands like Limp Bizkit who came out and were like, everybody's like, oh, this shit's awesome. So like all this idea that it all started at Woodstock is just, it's not true. Right. If you think about like all the, like we always, I don't know, it was your joke. They're like, that was the time period where like, if someone took your picture, you legally had to flick off the camera.
Yeah.
Like every picture taken and like from like 97 to like 2001 was just this irreverent, fuck you.
Yeah.
It was like, that was what the culture was during that time.
Right.
So it's like Woodstock 99 might've been like a, illustration of it, but it's not like you can put the pressure on it as the thing that happened. It all happened before. It was like leading up to that point. I don't know. I didn't see the documentary, but
I was reading about it, people's reactions to it, and somebody made an interesting point, which I don't know, but they wrote it so well that I was like, this guy sounds right. Was that the thing that happened in like the mid 90s was that Clear Channel started like buying up all these like independent radio stations. And
Who's Clear Channel?
It's like this media company. So they own, I guess they own like news stations and stuff. And so they started buying up like radio stations and all this stuff. And basically they essentially started controlling what you hear. So things just became popular because they pushed
Jewish. Okay, yeah.
Oh my God. Oh dear. So things just started becoming popular because they forced it down people's throats and they could promote whoever they want. And they had like a stranglehold on music or whatever. And they were making that argument that like, it wasn't as democratized as it is now because of the internet.
But the internet is also, that's also like a slight lie. The internet is this democratized thing. There is still so much of what succeeds or can go viral can just have a lot of money behind it.
But the gatekeepers are algorithms. So like, it's persistence. It's like you can make shitty videos, but if you make 10,000 of them, you're going to eventually spike an algorithm, find some people who like your shitty video, and then you'll get some sort of following. So it's not really like they act like it's like some sort of, you make something good and it's on the internet so anybody can see it. But in order for it to be seen, it has to go through this gatekeeper that is now faceless, which is an algorithm. Yeah. But it's interesting because what you're saying about the radio stations, because that's true, because another thing that happened was bookstores. Like bookstores and radio stations used to be independent, and they used to just play the shit that they wanted to play, and they would get like a local following. Yeah. Like everybody would like listen to the radio station or go to the bookstore. They would put out different books, and both of those things in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, became corporate. And then you go to Barnes and Noble, and every Barnes and Noble has the exact same books. Yeah. Every radio station has the exact same music. Like they killed all of the unique parts of those fields or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a big thing. It's a big thing that happened. It's like everything became way more corporate. Yeah. And like Woodstock, the initial Woodstock was like a bunch of peace, love, and happiness, and like people just having a good time. And then 1999, it was like corporations putting on Woodstock to make money and sponsoring the event and selling bottles of water and like doing all those things. It's just a different thing completely. Yeah. But that was that time period.
That was, I think there was a brand of bottled water that was famous at Woodstock. It was like, you know how when you buy like a bottle of water, sometimes they have those little like gel flavor packs? Yeah. Like you just top it off and then now it's got like an apple spritz. They actually had those, but it was just like you pull it off and you just drop the roofie right inside. It was like just like a little gel. It was like it just came with it. It was, it was like part of the package where you just, now I have the roofie with me. Yeah. Do you believe that for a second?
At first I zoned out for the beginning of it.
It's like they had like a licensed roofie.
The reason why I heard a joke, I forget who it was, but they were talking about Spanish fly. And apparently in like the 70s, you could just buy Spanish fly from
from
bodega.
Cosby.
Yeah, from Bill Cosby.
If you knew Bill Cosby.
Like the way that they have like boner pills now at like certain bodegas.
I love
there was
those,
just Spanish
man.
fly, and there was just, hey, give this to women, and they get really loose. And like apparently that was a very accepted thing. So I thought that's what you were kind of on, and I was like, that wouldn't surprise me.
No.
But back to the idea that like that it was just the time. It was just part of what was in the air. There's that. I think Patrice O'Neal said it where he's just like, how can a riot break out unless everyone's mad? You know what I mean? Like, how could that Limp Bizkit be the number one band unless everybody thinks they're the number one band?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it was all happening before it. It was like this angsty part of society after grunge died and like Limp Bizkit and those bands took over. It wasn't because grunge, like Pearl Jam was still making music. It wasn't like they stopped. It wasn't like the Foo Fighters started right around after, but people stopped listening to it as much and started listening to the more aggressive shit. Yeah.
I will say in the documentary, Moby comes across as like so lame.
Really?
Because he's just the guy who's like, I thought it was a bad idea from the beginning. Like, you're like, shut up.
Fuck you.
Shut up.
Yeah.
But it is weird who was there because like The Offspring was there, Alanis Morissette was there, Jewel was there, which I was like, Jewel? But like whatever. But it is funny because like anytime like a female artist would go on, everybody in the crowd's like, show your tits. It's like, Jesus Christ.
That is
Alanis Morissette's like, how many albums do I have to sell to fucking I can show your tits?
Say show your tits.
Not enough. Just show them. Put it on the cover.
That was also that we talked about a lot. That was the Attitude Era. And
it was Attitude Era.
That was the Attitude Era of America.
Yeah.
Man. That was America's Attitude Era. Where
I think
we
it's
don't
because
give a fuck.
we went through 8 years of Reagan, 4 years of Bush, and then Clinton took over, and then Clinton was like the savior for a lot of like left-leaning people, and then he clearly,
in retrospect, it's like, wait, we were wrong. He sucked so bad.
Yeah.
he didn't live up to it, and I think everybody just goes like pissed off.
Yeah,
everybody's like, all these stodgy people are in charge, and the man and all that shit, and then all those people realize that the man is also the people advertising to them, and like it was just like this perfect storm of anger.
It was kind of funny because it was a lot of like young white guys going like, fuck the man, without realizing like, wait, I'm a little bit kind of the man. Or at least the man a little bit has my back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's right. Some righteous anger, some not righteous anger. You know, what are you gonna do?
And just some fucking around. Sometimes it's just funny to go, fuck you.
Yeah, sometimes it's hilarious to catch something on fire at a concert because you're like, dude, this is so dumb. Because
you're 18 and you're like, what the fuck else am I gonna do?
That's the thing too. It's not like it was a bunch of 40-year-old men who were no better. It was a bunch of kids who are hot and high and hungry. Like, what do you think they're gonna do?
And it was still culturally acceptable to just say to a woman, "Show me your tits."
Yeah.
Right.
And that wasn't like what?
Well, that was one of the things that they talked about. They were like, this was the era of Girls Gone Wild, which I think is a little off because I think Girls Gone Wild was like a couple years after this.
It's definitely a couple years after. I have a few.
But they
DVDs.
they tried to massage it a little bit to get it, to make it fit. But it's like,
as someone who's very aware of the Girls Gone Wild canon, I can tell you.
Girls Gone Wild 367 was issued.
I launched a DVD series called Girls Gone Mild, where it's just young women succeeding in corporate America.
Talking about their lives.
Show us your resume.
But yeah, there was a lot of stuff there, like women are being groped. Like there's a clip from the Offspring guy where he's like, I'm sorry, let me do this first. But there's a clip from the Offspring guy, and he's like, hey, if there's a girl out there crowd surfing, you don't have to touch her tits, right? And if you're a girl crowd surfing, just grab a guy's nuts. And everybody's like, yeah. But the funniest thing is, like, I don't know why, and maybe I just missed it, but they interviewed Scott Stapp.
Who's Scott Stapp?
The lead singer of Creed.
We were making fun of him a few weeks ago.
And he was just like, I don't know what he was talking about. He was just like, I guess he must have been a performer there, because why else would you have him? But he was like, yeah, the post-grunge.
No, do the note. You got to do the voice a little.
I mean,
sorry, say it.
But he was doing the thing. He was like, well, post-grunge, like, we were, like, grunge was about something else, and post-grunge, we were talking about the stuff that mattered to us, not like new metal. And we're like, you're just as lame. Like, what are you talking about?
You're a guy who sold out Jesus. Like,
Yeah,
you
I know.
like, what are you talking about, dude?
We were talking about real shit, like how you should accept Jesus as your one Lord and Savior.
I read that the lead singer of Offspring has like a double doctorate or something.
yes.
He's like a very
He's
smart.
a genius,
I just love
apparently.
that. Yeah, he's a genius. I love that he's
Who?
like
The
lead singer of the
Offspring.
Offspring has like 2 doctorates or something. He's like a very educated.
I actually
very
watched
smart guy.
there's a really good YouTube video of him and Dr. Cornel West talking about race relations, and Cornel West goes, "You're pretty fly for a white guy." That's where that came from. Dr. Cornel West is actually the original. He's listed in the songwriting credits if you look at the album.
Man, the Offspring. That's a fucking
Yeah.
band that's so specific to that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
My
friend's got a girlfriend, man. He hates that bitch. That's like,
all right.
It's like, okay, dude.
Okay, when you all right, here we go now. You don't get to be like, hey guys, be cool when you like,
when you're
my
like,
friend has a girlfriend and I hate that bitch.
But he also does the verse coming from the woman's perspective,
All right.
where she hates the guy who's a dick. So
All right.
There's equality.
Yeah.
It is okay
it's
to.
not like
all right.
Puddle of Mud had he fucking deserved it.
He's a fucking loser.
What was she wearing? God, I miss. But here's the thing. We talk about it frequently, but I miss tastelessness. There should be some semblance of certain subcultures should be allowed to be tasteless. Not like, and don't get me wrong, like some of it's a little much, but that song, it's okay to just be like, I hate that bitch. Like, some women are bitches. It's true. Some men are.
Yeah.
But if you call a man a bitch, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
If you call a man a bitch, it's like you're probably dating a bitch and you don't stand up to her.
It just means you're just as bad as a woman.
No.
Well, that's what it means. I didn't come up with it. It wasn't it's not like I came up with that. That's what it means.
Well, it's funny because it's like who gets to be called a bitch, right? Mm-hmm. So like if there's like some woman who drowns her kids, is it okay to call her a slut? Like
it doesn't apply.
But what about that behavior is slutty?
Nothing. But it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, but that's not
like,
how
as
it
soon
works.
as you drown
I
your
love
kids,
the idea
it's
of
over.
some woman drowns her kids and you still make it about sex. Like, she probably fucks everything that moves, slut.
It's not about the.
I like that idea. If you're just, now that they've done something so heinous, you can be like, fuck them.
Yeah.
The woman drowns her kids, you're like, all right, I can call her the N-word.
Right.
I didn't.
I'm just saying, what's the line?
What's the line? It's a good question. Is a woman who drowns her kids a sleut?
A dumb bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that, right? I don't know.
I like it.
Do you know why in that song, why do we know any other lyrics? Like, what was the qualities of the girlfriend? Like, because my friend's got a girlfriend and I hate that bitch. First off, he wrote from the heart.
Well, he didn't say I hate that bitch. He
said,
hates
man,
that
I
bitch.
really gotta lose that bitch in the
He
worst type of
tells
way.
me every
She
day.
sits on her ass and he works his hands to the bone to give her money every payday. Yeah, so she's a fucking
Say no
mooch.
way,
Leech.
say
She's a
no
leech.
way, no way.
She's a relationship welfare queen.
Yeah, and then the other way, I don't remember. I just remember she hates that dick.
Yes.
Tells me every day.
You're right. Wow.
See?
Yeah, I don't remember the reasons.
That's why he got a fucking degree in thermodynamics. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
He actually helped Bezos get to space. Which we haven't talked about that at all. How are we on time, by the way? Are we?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh. Can we change subject? Talk about that?
Yeah, it's
we have
fine.
not once
Billionaires in
talked
space.
about the Jeff Bezos going to
Right,
space
right,
thing.
And Richard Branson went, kind of.
Wait, kind of?
He like went like around the
None of them
like,
went out of the outer atmosphere to where you're technically in
Yeah.
outer space, but they did go to the highest.
They
part
did
of
take
the-
a Delta flight.
Yeah. They were up there.
Yeah.
Nothing depresses like me more than billionaires going to space.
Yeah.
I mean, things depress me more, but it's just such a bummer. Like, I love that they have, it all just feels like one giant show and tell.
Yeah.
Where everyone is like, we're just going along with it because he's paying us. You know, It feels like Joffrey a little bit, where it's just like, this guy has the money, he's giving us money, so we're all just going to participate in the fantasy and the little camp of it all because he had, even the journalist who's afterward, like, so how did it feel? You're like, she's just getting paid and it's like, I'll be interested in this guy.
How'd you feel riding the choo-choo? Like,
Yeah.
it's so stupid.
But that's exactly
the
how
juxtaposition of it happening where everybody's so upset with like income inequality and like Amazon killed the unionized, like they were going to try to unionize in like Alabama for Amazon, and Amazon like did everything they could to kill them from unionizing. And like, the stories of, truck drivers who drive for Amazon can't afford to stop and go to the bathroom because they're on such a time scrub, like all these things. And then it's like a month ago, his taxes were leaked, and like he didn't pay any income tax in like it's 3 different years, Bezos. And it's like, yeah, it sucks. At the same time, there is something like cool about the achievement of it. And I do think that like, as a society who all of us sit here and buy stuff on Amazon all the time while bitching about how much money Jeff Bezos has, it's kind of like, well, how did he get the money? All of us buy shit on Amazon
that's true.
all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're all complicit in it. We're all, I get how it's a bummer that some people can't go to the doctor, but this guy has enough money to take himself to space and he doesn't pay taxes, and this I totally understand. But I also think it is kind of important to point out that.
But it's not necessarily a one-on-one thing.
people are overly simplistic.
Yeah.
I will agree with that, where they're like, his wealth increased by, this is how much money he got over the pandemic, which is true and it's bad, but it's like he can't access that money. This isn't like a defense of him. This is just like there are some like social media socialists who are they just do deny the reality we live in, and like he can't just have all of the money he has. It's tied to a stock. It's still bad. I agree, but
he also didn't take it from the healthcare fund. You know, like I mean, maybe he did. I don't know.
He also built the best thing.
Yeah,
like the best thing that all of us use. Undeniably, it's like, am I gonna go do something? No, I'm going to order on Amazon. Why? Because it's the best thing to do.
But this is
it's the best thing. Like, he built the best thing. It is the best thing. So he deserves to be rewarded for that. I would like to live in a world where he can make the best thing and become a billionaire, but also have to pay taxes. Yeah. And then people can afford to go to the doctor. Like, that's what I would like to live in that world. So I don't think, like, him independently, like, you know, other than the fact that there's loopholes that he cannot pay taxes, I think closing those loopholes would be important. But other than that, him independently, he's just building the best thing.
Do you know how they get away with not paying taxes? I just found this out.
Yeah, I know some of it.
Would they human traffic for Congress?
Yeah. Yes.
They're like,
they're all pedophiles, dude.
If you give me 3 remaining teenagers, I'll
3. Come on.
I just saw this and I'm like, maybe it's completely wrong, but I don't know. Correct me if I am. But like, so basically, what happens is like Amazon sets up a shell company like called Globex or whatever, right?
They even name it the name of a company from a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like where it's like so broad, it means nothing.
Global Simtex or whatever. So they open a company in the Cayman Islands called Global Simtex, right? And so let's say Amazon makes $50 billion worth of profit. They say that their business model is licensed. The intellectual property is licensed from Global Simtex in the Cayman Islands, and guess how much it costs?
The exact same of the profit,
$50 billion.
Yeah.
So they give the money to Global Simtex, that $50 billion, and they're like, "Well, we didn't make a profit. How can we pay taxes?"
Yeah, and then individually, Bezos can decide to get paid in Amazon stock rather than getting paid in cash. So if you have, let's say you have a Amazon stock worth $2 billion. Instead of selling the stock and having the liquid cash to buy stuff with, you can borrow against your stock. So basically, they just have a black Amex card with no limit on it, and they buy everything on credit, and it's borrowed against their stock. So if you own $2 billion of Amazon stock, and then over the course of 10 years, that increases to $10 billion of Amazon stock, you pretty much, the interest, it constantly gets paid, so they never have to worry about. They're just basically, it's just feeding itself. It's the system that feeds itself. So like if you're a CEO like Musk or Bezos who's running the company, you just opt to get paid in stock rather than, a salary. So like Jeff Bezos will make like $85,000 in salary from Amazon, and then the rest of it will be given to him in stock. And that's why they don't have to pay individual federal income tax.
That is that's good to know as for me as a future billionaire to wonder like how can I get. I think we should declare Oh Dear as a religion. And that way any income we get from
this
Patreon.
conversation we're having right now would preclude that from happening because we're colluding to say it's a religion. But yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Wow. It's the thing that's so frustrating is I got hit up by the government that like, oh hey, turns out you owe us more. I owed them $650.
They showed up at your door.
They did.
And the white beater going with their hand on hey
did the numbers again and
turns out
really you're an IRS
I don't
agent.
want to be a bummer, but like
you're in and one shorts. I feel
and
like
a towel around their neck.
But they it's just funny where it's like, guys, you're working so hard to get another like $600 from people who are not at that income level. The labor to just get a little more out of like Amazon is so much less, and the reward is
it's not though
so much more.
The problem is the IRS is so underfunded that they don't even have the resources to go after Amazon because they can just lock them up in court. So like if you're the IRS, you have all these tax laws, but you have really no means of guaranteeing. So if you're a rich person, you can just not pay taxes, and you pretty much can just get away with it.
Yeah.
It takes.
Wait, you're saying that Amazon or whoever would just keep blocking and getting them into court?
Well, it's like all
these
these Trump stuff coming out about all the taxes he didn't pay and all these other stuff. It's like it took years for this to come out, and only because he was president, and only because everybody was digging, trying to find dirt, and they finally found out that he wasn't paying his taxes. And it's not even him; it's the fucking COO of his company that's gonna get in any trouble if he even gets in any trouble. So it's like the IRS can't guarantee everybody pays their taxes. Yeah. So like they can send you a scary letter, but if you have a team full of lawyers, you just forward that shit to them and let them deal with it, and you're fine. Like there's nothing they can do. They can try to get the money, but they have no real way of enforcing it.
And if they wanted to like change that law in any way, you know, the natural thing that happens is people go, fucking Mexicans are taking your job.
But that's the thing, though. It's so much easier for the IRS to send you a scary note, Brett, saying you give us $600 more, because all of us would be like, oh, fuck, I don't want to get in trouble here. Take my $600 when we don't even have the $600 to give. Yeah. You know? But it's way more easy for them to collect money that way than it is the other way.
Yeah, that's true. I regret not consulting my team of lawyers, which is made up of it's the OJ team. But they put fancy words on it too that make it. They don't call it they call it opportunity. They always are. Government is they spend so much time trying to make the language scary, but also very general. Yeah. I remember when New York said you can give some unemployment back, this was separate from taxes. They call it opportunity to waive future. It was something like that, but they called it an opportunity. And you're like, you motherfuckers, stop manipulating language so much to just confuse people into either being scared or not knowing.
Yeah,
it's all so intentional.
It's like when they do bills in Congress and they call it the Freedom and Families Ice Cream Act, and it's all about just raping prisoners or something. But
it goes back to paying taxes and stuff. Even if we had a way to make them pay taxes, would you trust the government to actually do it right?
No.
Exactly. That's we live in this where it's we can all be mad at billionaires, and I think that a lot of that anger is righteous and coming from a very smart place. But even if we collected the money that we think they should pay and put it into the federal government, it's going to be mismanaged, misspent. It's just going to be on a terrible... I mean, granted, if the more money they have, the more good they can do theoretically. But I just think that we have to do two things. We need to do tax reform, but then we also have to do money reform and how the government spends money, because the way that they spend money... I was reading this thing where I think we talked about it before. They paid some firm in California. They spent $6 million for them to build them a website that you can make on Wix for $13.
Squarespace, dude. Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
bucks.
It's what are we doing? And then in California, in San Francisco, they started putting up tents for the homeless, and it's just a tent. It's just a big tent, you would see at a outdoor festival, right? They put up tents. Each one of those tents costs $300,000.
Of course.
It's because when the government's buying your product and you're a business who's selling it, you just go, it costs $300,000. And they're like, all right, cool. There's no negotiating. No one's going to be like, what are you doing with that? What do you mean? I go find someone else. It's just a bid. It's just any government thing is a bid. Right. And companies can drastically overcharge because the government's not going to negotiate with them. Right. So there has to be a better way for government to spend money at the same time as we need to pass laws to where more money comes in from people who have so much and paid literally nothing into the pot.
That's why people are always the thing is government contract. Because we know the government is moronic.
Well, there's no civic kind of, I don't know, pride is the right word, but civic integrity in that way of
paying taxes.
No, but businesses even being let me offer them a reasonable price. There's just nobody thinks about it in civic duty kind of terms.
Right.
They just go fuck, this is my ticket.
Taxpayer dime, fuck it. Overcharge.
The truest line in The Departed was, "This is America. If you don't have money, you're a douchebag." Yeah. The Bezos thing that I remember getting in a kind of not argument, but debate with a guy, a friend of a friend at a party, and he was because I said the Bezos point, they're like, oh, it's kind of a bummer. And he was like, I think it's amazing what private enterprise can do and like send a man to space, which isn't totally wrong. The people who still accomplished it's remarkable. But first off, we've already been to space. Second off, this is why it sucks.
We did that in 69.
We did that in 69. First, and I think the Jeff Bezos, I'm positioning this theory, the Jeff Bezos going to space, it's a hoax. I think it was done on a green screen.
But what's exciting about it is that there is an opportunity for us to, if regular people can get in a rocket and go into space, it means that we could start actually sending people to satellites, to other places to live, more exploration. Before, it had to be sanctioned by the government, and the government had to approve. Like, no one could just go to space privately. It had to be done by NASA, government's approval, this, that, and the other. I know what you're saying. You're right.
This is why people are like, Jeff Bezos lands and he gets this little weird ticker tape like, how did it feel? And he's like, this is why it's a bummer. He did laugh like, it's like, who laughs like that?
He's a fucking nerd, dude.
Yeah, it is a supervillain laugh. And it's none of us share in the victory when it's not with public money.
Yeah.
That's like, it is kind of public money because we did fund the space launch. Like, even me, I don't think I buy much from Amazon. And I was like, thinking about it. I think I've spent this year, I've probably spent $150 on Amazon purchases, which is not a ton. But when you think about $150, 100 million people, 200 million people, and I'm probably spending on the lower end of some of those folks.
You definitely are. Some people spend that a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I bought 2 tripods and, a couple of dongles.
It's like I ordered groceries from Whole Foods that gets delivered. That's owned by Bezos. If I need something, like if I need a screwdriver, I'm not going to go walk to find one. I'm just going to go boom, boom, boom. All right, it'll be here tomorrow. Yeah. It's just like, it's that easy.
But it doesn't, no one is like, NASA is like, it's cool. It's NASA. It's public money. So we all share in the victory. But there is no sharing in a victory when it's just like one man. And one man who, by the way, as he said, he thanked the customers and the employees. Quite literally said, I want to thank the employees and the customers because you guys paid for this. The fact that I think he was trying to say the customers paid for this.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was kind of like a modifier that could sound like he was saying the employees paid for this was like, yikes.
Yeah. It sounded like they did a GoFundMe to get him into space. It's like the only way it would have been worse if he just said, I earned this by myself. Thank you, bye.
That's a very tone deaf kind of thing. But he's a fucking cloistered billionaire by now. Like, he's not interacting with those employees, is he?
It is true. It's like, what do you expect? Like, you expect him to not be tone deaf? He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Right. And I would guess that he has so much money that even if you took away 20% of what he owns and put it in taxes for back taxes, he would have still had enough money to go to space, and then still he has.
Dude, he went through a divorce and was still the richest person in the world,
and she became the richest female ever to live.
Yeah,
because
ever to live.
Yeah, ever to live because she got his divorce money.
She got like 1/3 or something.
Yeah,
and if you talk to any woman about it, they're like, "Yeah, you go," and you're like, "That no, that's bullshit that you're proud of getting that much money."
At least she's donating it all to charity.
Fucking slut. Just calling her.
Brett, she didn't drown any kids. You can't do that.
No, but still.
You can't call her that.
Oh, my bad. That is true. That's the difference between men and women. When a woman gets that so much money, she donates to charity. When a man he's like, I'm making a dick rocket and going to space. I gotta put a cock on the moon, man.
That's fucking funny, man.
All right, I think we're about an hour in.
I think so.
All right.
What do you guys think? Good to go?
Yeah.
Good, yeah, we did it.
Do your plugs, man.
Do the plugs. YouTube. We do have a YouTube for the show. We're still getting it up, and it's taken forever to upload it. But if you look up the Oh Dear podcast on YouTube, you should see us there. So follow us there, and then my YouTube's Nick Whitmer.
I've also posted a link to our YouTube on my website, ChristianDuranComedy.com. Just go into the podcast area. My album King Latifah is streaming on all streaming platforms. Check it out.
Sick. And then YouTube, Bret Raybould, subscribe, go buy Bret Coin so you can take care of a great
We'll put the link. We'll put the link into the show notes too for the YouTube channel. I actually texted Bret that the other day. I just sent him a screenshot of my Bret Coin. I go, I'm just hanging out here with my retirement fund. Bret Coin.
And I was like, yeah, man, good for you. Christian though still hasn't.
All right. Well, I'm waiting for it to. I'm waiting for it to spike and then come back
we
down.
can't get Miles. We can't get him baby food this week.
But in 3 years, trust me,
he's gonna have so much baby food. All right,
guys.
Thanks. Peace.
Peace.